Menzetti doing? Cardinal Menzetti High School was a Catholic school in Dunkirk, New York from 1952 to 79 and produced many fine athletes during those years. It has been said that Dan Wolfe was the greatest all-around athlete to graduate from Cardinal Menzetti. Dan had no peers that could match his accomplishments, both on the athletic field and in the classroom. Dan had it all. During his years at Menzetti, 65 to 69, he earned 15 varsity letters, 4 in football, 4 in baseball, 4 in track, 3 in basketball. In football, Dan played just about every position during his football career, and the Monarchs recorded a record of 24, 5, and 3. His senior year, he was named to the All-Western New York team, and more impressive, the National Catholic School All-American team. In baseball, he was a 4-year starting pitcher, winning 26 games, helping the Monarchs to 2 league titles. He also played 3 years as a starter for the varsity basketball team and as a member of the track and field team, competing in the 100, the 220, the long jump, the 440, and the long relay team. In every sport Dan competed, he was named a league all-star, securing his legacy of one of Cardinal Menzetti's greatest athletes. And for that, I'm honored to include Dan as an inductee into the 2026 class of inductees into the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame. Here to accept the honor is close family friend Bill Dimmer, along with Dan's sister Mary.
I have a couple of comments before the prepared remarks. Congratulations to all of the honorees tonight. I, frankly, not living here for 30, 40 years, I thought this was a bunch of bowlers. I'm very surprised, very impressed, these athletes, coaches, you've got hometown heroes, you got marathoners, you got wrestlers, you got 4, 3, and 4-star athletes, coaches. I'm very impressed. I take everything back that I was thinking about it. I also was impressed by the first guy up here, Kenny. I gotta get with you afterwards, man. I need to know more about that girl looking up at the pole. I need to know more. I'd like to thank the 2 guys that are responsible for getting me up here tonight, Jim Beam and Jack Daniels. I understand that I'm the only barrier between you and your car keys tonight, but I think Dan deserves a few minutes. I will tell a personal story. I also played in the Great Belt League, Kerry, and not sure whether I met you during that time or not, but I did face Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame honoree, Al Muck. And I like to tell the story that I was 3 for 3 off of Al Muck during that Sunday afternoon. So 35, 40 years later, I'm out at one of the local watering holes in Dunkirk. And my brother Bob says, "Hey, there's Al Muck." So I go over to him and I say, "Al Muck, you probably remember me. I was 3 for 3 off of you. You remember that?" And Al Muck goes, he goes, "Every time I go out somewhere and I run into you guys, my ERA goes down." It was funny as hell. Anyway, it was funny at the time. Good evening. I stand here to recognize and accept into membership Chautauqua County Sports Hall of Fame Daniel Francis Wolfe, number 44, at your 44th banquet, by the way. Born August 27, 1950, Fredonia, New York, son of Ed and Claire Wolfe. Oldest in the family of 3 children, including sister Mary Kay, here tonight with her husband Steve and their sons Matthew and Lucas, and another sister Amy, who tragically died at the age of 5. This would be one of the first of several adversities Dan would face during his life, the loss of his little sister at a young age. My name's Bill Dimmer. I live in Florida. I'm here because Dan passed away in 2023, and his sister said she couldn't get through this without crying, and I'm not sure I might end up the same. That happens when you're the only surviving member of the family, right? I first met Dan as a freshman at Cardinal Menzetti, and then during the next 50 plus years together, we were teammates, we were classmates, we were roommates. We traveled together. We painted houses together. We created and operated the world-renowned Frisbee Fling at the Chautauqua County Fair, initially for profit, mostly for beer money. We were golf partners. Most importantly, we were friends. And that last part encompasses a whole lot of people because he had friends everywhere of all kinds. After elementary school at Fredonia's St. Joseph's, his family moved to Dunkirk, and he attended Cardinal Mazzini, where he became, in the words of longtime coach Bob Moscato and Hall of Fame member, the greatest athlete the school has ever produced, unquote, and the scene of most of his sporting feats, which qualifies him for recognition tonight. You can read his stats in football and baseball and basketball and track and field. He did everything. He was running back, quarterback, kicker, linebacker, punter, pitcher, hitter, guard, forward, sprinter, long jumper. He did it all. And then he had a hockey team. He would probably be the center. Dan did it all despite a slender 5'10", 165-pound frame. That was the second of the adversities he would face. A great athlete, but packed into a small, tough body with hidden vulnerabilities. He would have back issues his entire life, mostly brought on by playing the sport that he loved. His later years, he'd have 2 major back surgeries and lived with multiple pins and screws throughout his spine. At that stage, golf was his only real sporting outlet, and he played it with reckless abandon. And by that, I mean a healthy dose of vulgarity with every errant shot. His cursing and string of obscenities following a bad shot were legendary. Birds and rodents would be scared from the bushes and the trees in their lairs just to get out of earshot. I now carry your sandwich in my bag as a remembrance of Dan. No need for a sandwich at Hillview. There's no sand. By the way, if you ever find yourself at the Vineyards, formerly Hillview in Fredonia, we have a respite on Dan's bench, which is on the 9th tee, given by his high school classmates 2 years ago. Dan was unique because he was a great athlete who didn't want fame or recognition. He didn't need it. He competed for the challenge that it offered him, which is why he was so frustrated with his golf game. He'd be mad if he knew we were up here talking about his golf exploits instead of his other achievements. Correction, very mad. As a matter of fact, if you listen closely, you can hear his objections. And if you can hear him, I guess he must still be in purgatory, which for you non-Catholics, that's the place you go for a long wait until your number is called into heaven, which is kind of like the DMV or the Social Security office, but without the eternal happiness part. But it's true, he never basked in the fame or the exploits or the accolades that came with it. He never sought it out. He never acted like he was better than everyone else, even though he was. He'd be reluctant to even attend this celebration tonight. I believe his supporters wanted it more than he did. Dan was once described in the Dunkirk Evening Observer as a kid who could run like a gazelle. He had a curveball that could strike out anybody, including Dave Crichone, who he rung up a total of 33 times over the years. Now, I was debating whether to leave that part in or leave that part out. But seeing Dave here, I had to leave it in. I made the number up out of whole cloth. But it's still funny, and he'll be sore about it all the way home to Fredonia. So well, because there was a big rivalry between Dave and Dan. So how good was he? Well, like most Dunkirk families, we'd get the Dunkirk Evening Observer at home newspaper during the week and the Courier Express newspaper on Sunday. One Sunday, late in '69, after the football season had concluded, there was a full page in the sports section announcing the all-Western New York football all-stars for both Catholic and public schools. On the all-Catholic side, there was Dan, Player of the Year. On the all-public school side, there was their Player of the Year, Lackawanna High School's Ron Jaworski. Super Bowl winner, Ron Jaworski. Jaws, ESPN personality. Pretty good company to keep. Finally, the last adversity Dan faced was pancreatic cancer, a second major blow to a body which absorbed a lot of hard hits and stretched his performance to the max during his sporting years. Unfortunately, he acquired a cancer which has few symptoms and is nearly almost always fatal, despite modern medicine, despite new treatment options, despite if you're a celebrity and how much money you have, it's a killer. Although he had reached the age of 70 when he was first diagnosed, he still had a lot of life to lead. Finally, if Dan were here tonight, he'd want to stress the guidance and support he got from his coaches and teammates, several of whom are here tonight. It demonstrates the kind of person you are when your teammates from 55 years ago are still showing up for you. You would say that he couldn't have done it without his team. Often during late games or practices, he'd offer the players who lived in Gowanda a place to stay overnight at his house. Come to think of it, he also extended the same offer to some of the Mazzeni cheerleaders. One in particular comes to mind. Without exaggeration, I can say for a guy with as many accolades and accomplishments, he was the humblest guy I knew. He'd be embarrassed by the things said about him tonight and in the program, and the people that came here to support him. Later in life, he became not a hometown hero, but a hard-working painter for Brooks Hospital and later on in business for himself. He was a guy who helped others, whether they needed help moving or painting, or in one particular instance, a friend told me, he rescued a disabled lady from an abusive home situation. Quite a guy. There were always people who owed him money for painting. I just heard about one last night. But he preferred to wait until they remembered a business model that today is practiced nowhere. There's a lot of stories about the exploits of Dan Wolfe, but many of them have nothing to do with sports. Bottom line, he was truly a memorable character. His sister, her husband, his nephews, his coaches, his opponents, and his many, many, many friends thank Randy and the Chautauqua County Sports Hall of Fame for Dan's selection. Dan would want to share with his teammates and coaches as well. Special thanks goes to CMHS longtime coach and member of the Chautauqua County Sports Hall of Fame, Bob Moscato, for his tireless multi-year effort to get Dan recognized, and who would have given anything to be here tonight except for health issues. Dan stands proud to be inducted into this organization in his home county where he lived in his entire life. Dan lost his last battle on May 30th, 2023, but takes pride in this victory tonight. Wish you were here, man. Congratulations, 44.